الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum to everybody watching the podcast. Today we have some special guests on from Fairbank United. So introducing the panel, to my right I have Molana Sajid, who is the Imam at Masjid and head of the Paradise Academy and avid volunteer at our Girlington organization, which are under the Girlington Muslim Welfare Association banner, and that we've been hearing about on this podcast series. Next, we have Akif Waseem, who's the secretary at Fairbank United and a member of the Girlington Muslim Welfare Association Executive Board, and Shazad, who's chairman at Fairbank United. Today, we're going to be talking about Fairbank United as a club and the community. So, let's start off with a footballing question.
But can I ask a question? Fairbank United, who are they?
We're going to get to that, Molana. So, who are they? First of all, let's ask, who's going to win the Premier League?
Well, it's definitely not going to be Man United this year, thank God.
You know what? On that, listen. I've been holding this one, right? Remember when Liverpool and Barcelona played, right? That first leg, I went into Masjid for something, right? And Molana Sajid, after the first leg, we were down, we got smashed, right? And Molana Sajid comes over and he says, "How did that go? You looking forward to the second leg?" I shut up, I put my head down, I walked away. Ever since then, Molana Sajid, I've been waiting for the chance to talk about football to you.
They should cancel the season.
So what happened in the second leg with Molana? What happened in the second leg with Barcelona and Liverpool? Let's just talk about that for a minute.
I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch it?
I'll be honest with you, that game, over both legs, if you watched it, Liverpool were the better team. Even in that first game, I couldn't believe they lost 3-0. I was just like, what on earth has happened there? But the difference was Messi in the first one, and in the second one, they dealt with Messi, and that was it. I think they took him out a couple of times in the first few minutes, didn't they? But yeah, that was a good game.
Is Shazad the Liverpool supporter?
No.
Okay, at least.
Shazad doesn't know much about football. That's why he supports United.
Okay, so the two United and two Liverpool fans here.
So does the title even count in this season then?
Let them have the glory in it after stop and start of a season. They want to take the title, that's fine after 30 years. If that's how you won it, no problem.
What do you mean that's how we won it? How many points? We're 22 points clear at the top of the table. It's not as if it's 2 points clear. If it were a tight title race, you could say that.
But Shazad, at least there'll be nobody there to celebrate with them.
At least you've had a bit of a fright, haven't you?
Oh,
at
hell
one
yeah.
point, what were you thinking? No way.
You know, I'll be honest with you. So we went clear, and you're thinking, all right, okay, we've won it. And then you heard these rumblings of COVID-19, and you're thinking, oh my God, if we're beating everyone and COVID-19 takes us, that'll be typical luck that we've had over the last 30 years. But I don't know. Even now, we still need to get through and win the next two games.
I think the rest of the club just felt sorry for you and thought, let's play it. Let's get it over and done with after 30 years.
But Shazad, at least there'll be nobody there to watch them celebrate it. They'll be in the toilets, in it. They'll be celebrating in the toilets or the car park.
Listen, after 30 years, it doesn't matter where we're celebrating. And in 30 years' time, you'll be in exactly the same situation the way your club's being run at the moment. So it'll be all good.
You know, to be fair, they have been the better team. You know, speaking football terms.
I'm putting down repeat. That's a soundbite.
You're going to look at it generally, don't you? As a football, you know, if you like football and whoever you're supporting, etc., sometimes you're going to hold your hands up and think, you know, this team's just too good. And they have been really, really good. And, you know, the consistency, that's what it's come down to, if I'll be honest with you. It's all about consistency. You know, they've got very good players, but you wouldn't say they've got world-beater players. It was about a team, a squad, of being solid and consistent, if I'll be honest.
It's about the system, isn't it? I mean, you won't be able to put people like De Bruyne and, you know, some of the flair players you've got in the middle of Man City's midfield into Liverpool's, and definitely Henderson and Wijnaldum, you put them in Man City's team, it wouldn't work. So you've got to get the best players that work for you, really. And it's sort of thing that we've done over the years with the players that we've had. and we've had to adapt systems, and we've had to change. And over the last 25 years now, the club's been running. How many times have we changed systems? Remember originally, Shaz, we used to play the 4-4-2
Yeah.
back in the late 90s. I mean, who the hell plays 4-4-2 anymore? So football adapts, and it's more about dealing with the way you've got the players and going with that. Liverpool have found this formula. Even since Jurgen Klopp's come, he's adapted his system because they were all out sort of heavy metal football at the beginning, weren't there? And since then, it's refined a little bit. They'll go kill the game off, and then they'll sit back, and people like Van Dijk and Allison have helped improve this team. Those two are key buys over the last year or so. Otherwise, and that kicked them onto the next level.
Akif,
So I think it's
generally,
important at this
sorry.
time. I think at this point we should introduce who are Fairbank United. So where are the base? What are they? Because there might be some people listening who are not aware of them or not familiar with them.
Fairbank United, we run in inner city Bradford. We're primarily a club from Girlington, and we started in 1996. 25 year. We're coming on to this next season is our 25th year anniversary, and it started with the caretaker at Wetley Middle School who saw a group of lads kicking about in the playground. I think Shaz was one of those original members, and he decided because there was nothing here for kids and Asians generally. There were some open age teams that went before us, but in terms of kids teams, there was nothing. So I think in the summer of '96 we set up, and I think we started our first league seasons in '97. And Shaz probably will tell you a little bit more about how it was set up.
Yeah,
He was there.
basically,
I came in shortly
yeah,
afterwards. Then
there wasn't much in the community at that time, and we approached the caretaker, uh, and he was willing to help us because we were always on the Wetley playground. If I'll be honest with you, that's where the football was going on. So there was nothing there, and we set up as a club. We originally started as an open age team. We joined the Bradford Sunday Alliance, and like Akif says, we started originally the season started in September '97 or '96, sorry. And basically,
no,
what happened
the
then is
league season started in '97, Shaz, because that was the day Princess Diana died. Do you remember?
that's right. Yes, sorry. Yes, you are absolutely right. And we had a league game that morning. Yes,
Yeah, we did.
yeah. And basically, what happened there was nothing for the kids. So when we originally started the open age team, there was a lot of kids and there was a lot of talent about it. If I'll be honest. And then I got involved with working with some of the juniors, and from there we just started a junior team, and it just carried on. From there, Fairbank formed, and we just moved on. And unfortunately, after was it a season, Akif will correct me, because it's been such a long time. We after a season or two, we the open age team stopped, and I just carried on with the junior team. To be honest,
Yeah, I mean we just about. I think we got towards the end of the season, and the management of the open age team. There were too many characters there, and it all sort of fell apart. But with the kids, Shaz carried them on until about 2003, and I think he then decided because it was a one man band, it was just him on his own. He had to have a break, go do his own qualifications, live a little because it takes up a hell of a lot of time. And then it was 2006, wasn't it, Shaz, where we just, I was
yeah,
at a stage where I was thinking, okay, nothing's going on locally, and there was only one man who was going to help set it up. So we used to play football on a Wednesday night, five-a-side, and I think I hounded him for a good couple of months, saying, "Look, come on, are we going to do something?" And
yeah, it was
in
a
the
good
end,
couple of months. We used to play five aside, and on a Wednesday. Coming back to just before I mentioned how we set up in 2006, people might think, how do I know Akif? Obviously, I know Akif for a long, long time. We've grown up in the same area, um, similar age, went to school. We know each other quite well. So then what happened was we were playing five aside, and he goes to me, we need to start football. And I'm looking at him thinking, enough's enough now. I've done my bit. I can't do anymore. And it just formed from there. Like you said, listen, we'll be fine together. And Alhamdulillah, till today, it's been a really, really good partnership. You know, um, First of all, we're brothers. We care. Our aim, our objectives are to do good for the community and the children and the people surrounding it, and that's what we worked on. If I'll be honest with you, and then from there it started in 2006, and we haven't looked back to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, we started with another kids team. This time we did it the other way around. We started with the kids team, and they were the under-17s, and then after the season we had two kids teams, and Shaz insisted we have an adult team, and the theory behind it all was always to have role models in the open age team that the kids would look up to, and then that would be sort of an endpoint where they could move through the system. And plus, it sort of gives us a sort of an academy model. We're not running around to others and nicking players from here, there, and everywhere. We've always had a core of our own. So that first adult team were all the kids that used to play, that stopped in 2003. We recruited the majority of them. And since it's gone on, and over the years, we've had loads of kids come through the system, and I mean, now we're lucky in respect that there's lots of different clubs around here. BD7 have got 3 teams. BD3 have got a team. There's locally there's a couple of clubs going now. But back in the late 90s, it was only us, and it was only that one team, and it was only Shaz. And the amount of people and local lads who come through and play football now that have played for us, the vast majority have. Sorry, and I think now we've got we're settled. We've got 3 junior teams at 11, 12, and under 14s, and we've got 2 one open age team and 1 veterans team now. So we've got over 35. So we're catering from the tiddlers right to the budday with the Zimmer frames and the walking sticks. So yes, we've got something for
Are you in that one, Akif? Do you play for the
I play
Zimmer
for
frame team?
I had a few games for the open age team. I didn't play. I mean, I'm slowly phasing out. The legs are gone, but yeah, I've been playing a lot for the veterans as well this year now. So yeah, I was in that original team back
No,
in
you've
'96
got
as well.
to Babar, you've got to give it to these guys because to volunteer and give up your time. Especially, I know these guys they work full time during the week, and then a weekend, and they'll tell you guys that how time consuming it is. You've got to leave your family commitments sometimes, and you've got to take out that time. You've got to get the kids together, and it's a tough thing. But these volunteers that take out their time for the community, sometimes we've got to appreciate them and we've got to celebrate what they do. And well done to Shaz and Akif and all the people that on the weekend that do take out their time. And it's a big thing. And I think we've got to champion these people that take out their time for our kids. And I think that's why parents should also get involved with such football clubs that cater for our community and put these things on for our community. Especially now we live in an environment where I think everybody we're overprotective of our children and we make sure that they don't go too far. So at least when we know in our community we've got a football team that's there that's providing these facilities, we can just remain content that we can put them in safe hands and pass them on to Shaz and Akif and these guys, and they'll take good care of them. And they've got a whole system where the kids can move up in the age groups and they can really benefit. So congratulations to you guys, and hope all the efforts that you do, may Allah Ta'ala give you the strength to carry on and continue your good efforts.
I mean, it's although me and Shaz have got this set up, the other volunteers are absolutely crucial to running the club. I mean, we've got lads that are involved in it. Some young lads as well that are involved now, down with the under 11s, 12s. Got a couple of lads who are involved with the under 14s. We've got a separate lad who's running the veterans, and I mean, there's only so much that 2 people can do together. And mashallah, we've gone with the right niyat all the way along. And I mean, I remember when we set up, and I laugh about it now, and it always comes back to me. We set the club up, and sort of one weekend I went out, and Shaz had like these 20 kids out in the field. He had all this equipment, and I go, "Oh, Shaz, that was good. You've got all these kids, and where's this equipment come from?" And he came over with a bill, and he says, "Oh, there you go." And I'm just looking at him like, "What?" He says, "Oh, I've got this. You've got to pay this off, and it's 650 quid." And I'm like, "When am I going to get 650 quid?" He says, "Well, that was the agreement. I do the football side, you do the admin side. Go sort it out." And so I was like, in a panic, and said, "Listen, Allah will look after us. We're doing it. We've got the right need. We're doing it for the right things. Don't worry about it." And I was like, literally within the week or so, I sorted it all out. We managed to find a sponsor, and from
mashallah.
that point, I remember that one point he always said that if you do go with the right intentions, Allah will look after you. And even with this COVID-19 situation where we're not able to run anything, where the kids are home, and obviously our finances have taken a hit. Just in the last week, we got a sponsor who just came up to us and says, "Oh, by the way, we've got a grand ready for you." And it was just like, okay, it's like you go with the right intention, then you will always be looked after, and that's what we've done, and that's what all the volunteers do. And without them, honestly, we'd be stuck. We'd be stuck with one team or two teams like we were for many years. So we're slowly growing. And if anyone does want to volunteer, by all means, approach us. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Snapchat, Twitter. We're everywhere. Just send us a message, and we'll get back in touch with you and go from there.
Just making a point, what Akif's saying about volunteers, it's a tough job. There's no doubt about it. But as we've gone on in the years and to progress and make more teams, we don't just make the volunteers come and do the footballing side. We involve them totally into the club, and also we progress them regarding getting their coaching qualifications. After they gave us years of service, we've put other volunteers and coaches onto level ones and level twos, and they've gained, and that could become a full-time job for them during the week of coaching football. So we do try to look after them in that sense of paying through the club or finding funding to get them to do the coaching, the badges, sorry, and for them to have something there for the future if they don't have a job or they don't go down that line of doing education, etc.
And I think one of the point that Molana made was about the parents. Now, Shaz will tell you the battles he had back in the day where they had no one, and I think it's a generational thing. I mean, because it's been 25 years, we can see how it's progressed and how it's changed. So originally it was, oh, they're going football, okay, it's not our responsibility to look after them. And the problems we had in terms of getting kids to away games. Now, away games aren't, West Park or down in Lister Park. Away games could be Settle, which is a 45-minute drive, which, some people have done. Barnoldswick, I remember we took them to once. Wakefield, these sort of places, sometimes we've had to travel. And if the parents aren't prepared to come with us, which we've had over the years, we get stuck. How the hell do we take 12, 13, 14, 15 kids to the other end of Leeds or even the other end of Bradford? And other clubs have. I know there's a club up the road, Manningham, struggled with that, and they had to fold because of it, and that's recently. But mashallah, we've been lucky. We managed for years to get away with it. I'm not quite sure how, but now we've got a minibus that was given to us by Bradford Council, which we can use and the under 14s currently use. And what we found is with the younger teams now, we've got a different breed of parent coming through who've grown up playing football, grow up watching football, and want to come out and watch their kids as well. Even the under 14s, all our junior teams are fairly well supported, and parents do come out, and parents are willing to help out, which is a nice change because it's something that we always did worry about. And hopefully that continues on. The more parents, the kids need the parents. They just, even if they're on side, just that support, just the fact that they're watching them. I mean, I know me and Shaz have had our little ones come through the system, and I hope that it's benefited them. It just does make a difference when you've got that parent there showing them that on a cold, horrible, wintry day when it's throwing it down, the parents are there. It shows that commitment, just as we're doing our bit. It's always good for the kids to have the parents who stood on the side.
But Akif, that's part of tarbiyat as well, isn't it? It's much of we educate our children in schools, in madrasas. So 5 days a week they are busy, occupied. Parents take out their time, drop them or pick them up. But it's the weekend where now, like you said, the parents they have to take out their time, take the kids to the away matches, and you need that parental support. And first, I know my child, my son, he plays for a rival team to yours, and the thing is, when I'm there, he just feels more connected. Or Abu's watching, you understand, and he wants to impress And sometimes if I'm lazy, I can't bother. Then I'll say, just go. Somebody will take you. But just being there, it's a different thing. And I think your child appreciates the father being on the sideline, watching, urging them on. And I think that's where we need to be part and parcel of our children growing up. Otherwise, the children sometimes the biggest complaint that they have is that the parents are not there, or the dad's
Yeah,
not there, or
exactly that. Yeah,
the
you're right.
sport's not there. And I
It's not.
think
It's
no,
not
this
only.
is
Sorry, it's not only about coming to football with them. It just builds that relationship within the own child. You get
yeah,
to know, about your child, which something you wouldn't know. And like Akif was saying, back when we started, there was no parents. No parents came. There was no support. The lads used to come themselves into a minibus and straight to games. But as time's gone on, we've had a lot of changes. And like Akif said, the generation, the parents who have played football, who watch football, who have been born and bred here, who want to support their children, and the relationship is vital. And as we've gone on as a club, we've had a mixture of children from different backgrounds who have joined us as well, and that's key for us, if I'll be honest with you. And the parents who support through the junior teams is, if you look back at '96 and you look now and you think, wow, this is absolutely brilliant. Because you've been there myself. Obviously, Baba's been there with his own little one, and it's that support, and we need that as a club. We need people to come
It
and
also
support
it
us
also
and help
makes a
us.
difference in terms of atmosphere as well. I mean, if we think of some of the games that, especially these local derbies or the big games, where sort of, and when we do have a big game and we call all the lads out and say, look, come support the kids. I mean, I remember there were one a few years ago where it was a must-win title decider, and we had loads of the open age team come. We had lads who had played for us previously, lads with no connection. They weren't related to the kids. All of them had come out along with all the parents and family there. It was a brilliant atmosphere, and maybe we'll talk about it later, one of the games, but the fact that they won it at the end of it as well, that celebration that we all had as our own little community, our own sort of club, the sort of the things that you remember uh, going through, and remember, hopefully the kids will remember as they're growing up as well, that, oh, look, dad was there on that day that happened, and or uncle was there. It doesn't have to be dad all the time, just someone there. I know lads whose dads don't come, but their uncles come all the time, or the cousins are there supporting them. So it's always, I think, important that someone's there just to will them on and have that little bit of banter with them. The amount of times that my nephews have had a Paul game and you're there sort of having that laugh with them, just to make sure that
I think you
winning
also
and
see
losing,
the
you've got to be psychologically, you've got to help them with it and learn, because
you,
in
you
life
you
when you
also
win
see
and
the
lose.
other side of a child when they play football. I remember when we at Masjid used to, and Akif is a teacher as well. When you're teaching them, you've got that authority over them. But when we used to on a Saturday just have them on the pitch, on the Wendy pitch, and we used to just play football. And sometimes the kids that were the naughtiest or the one that didn't learn the sabak, they were respectful on the pitch, or they had other qualities that you didn't know that they possessed, and you thought, wow, you know what? He thinks about others. He's not just greedy, and these aspects you might not see in the classroom. So we learned many lessons from a child, other qualities that we didn't see in the classroom or we saw outside the classroom. So sometimes you learn many lessons yourself of how many qualities that these kids possess. So sometimes a kid might not be as bright in class, but he might have other talents and other skills, and that's where he can display them. And you appreciate these things.
No, I mean,
So
that's a good.
Akif,
Go on, sorry.
one thing that I wanted to ask was, so you've obviously got on there that you're proudly displaying a GMWA sponsor on your shirt there. So what are the links? I know Molana Sajid just mentioned Masjid and stuff, so I thought it was a segue into what are the Fairbank United links to Masjid or GMWA?
Well, we can go back a long way in terms of family links. One of the things that I think is very important in terms of the role of not only our masjid but other masjids locally is, historically, if you look at the church and look at how they've set up, churches have always have had football teams, cricket teams. They've used sort of and sponsored and helped and equipped the locals in terms of doing things outside of the masjid. And I think our community has sort of, I know the needs of our fathers and sort of the grandparents who came in originally were very different to our needs. Remember when they came over originally and worked in the mills, their aim was, okay, we'll stay, we'll earn a little bit, and we'll go back home. So they set up masjids as primarily somewhere where they needed to pray. Now over the years they've decided, well, hang on a minute, we're going to be staying here. So now we need that transition from just being a masjid to being a community organization, and not enough masjids in Bradford, and we've got many masjids in Bradford. Not enough have done that. So it was a two-way thing, because and someone from the masjid did approach me, and Molana Sajid talked about it many times. So we've had this link in terms of recruiting lads from the masjid, and not only Masjid Umar, but Al Mustafa Centre and Al Hikam as well. So we've done the recruiting, but in terms of a financial sort of buying equipment, supporting the club, that sort of thing. That wasn't on until recently, and mashallah, the masjid has done that now. And in terms of giving, I think it's from a different fund completely, where they've supported the club financially. But talk about another masjid as well. Al Hikam has also done the same, and they've provided money as well. So sometimes okay, you can have that link where you're recruiting and there's a support there, but clubs like ours, we can't survive without that sponsorship. And okay, we over the years we've been to many businesses, and mashallah, there's lots of successful businesses that have sponsored us because they've liked what we're doing. But I think across Bradford, I think masjids, council mosques, organisations like that need to step up and look after our kids. Because like Milan Saab said, okay, it's all well and good having the kids in madrasa between a certain time, but what happens when they turn 12, 13, 14, 15, when they leave there? What they're doing on the weekends? And I mean, if we look at, we've had teams come through and they've gone. We've been going since '96, so we've had lads come through. They've gone on to further education. They've stayed away primarily from life of crime and all this antisocial behaviour. Shaz will talk about his team and how they're all sort of in decent jobs. The team I had that come through, all of them now, I think they're in the last year of uni. I think every one of my team that I ran between the ages of 10 and 18, every one of them went on to further education, and the vast majority of them are looking at graduating sort of next year or the year after. So it's not only that we're looking to create well-rounded individuals and teach them these leadership skills, the ability to think for themselves, to be able to solve problems, to be able to work together. All those are fundamentals of football, but it's also that behaviour and I mean, one of the lads will tell you that my things is work hard. Come off the pitch knowing that you've worked hard. If you put in effort, you will get something at the end of it. And you might not win every single game. No one's going to win every single game. I mean, Liverpool nearly did it, but even they fell against Watford. You have those off days. You can't do that. But if you put your effort in, then no one's going to complain. And more often than not in life, if you put that effort in, you will set out and you will get what you achieve.
Mashallah. So, go on, Shaz.
I think it's about basically, is what Akif is mentioning, and he mentioned some very good points there. It's about being good role models in the community base. As we go along, then children will grow older, and then there'll be younger ones coming through the club. And not only in the club, overall in the community, as people, being good role models and setting good examples within the community, within your family, it goes a long way, for be honest with you. And when we started in '96, there's a lot of lads who are all working, married, um, and you see them, but they're family guys now. They do their family things. They're working class guys, and that was the main aim of keeping them out of crime, making sure they become good role models within the community. And to a certain extent, probably 99%, yeah, we've achieved that up to now. And hopefully, as we go along, we'll achieve more with the children who are coming through as well.
What I don't
But
understand.
Babar, on that point, can I just jump in? Mashallah, many years ago, I remember with Akif, we were talking about this, and we did initially started a class where we wrote letters to parents that Muslim were merging with Fairbank United, and we're offering football And I remember many years ago as ustads, when we did start here at Masjid, we tried ourselves and we had a lot of kids do playing, but then obviously as our lives got busy and we had other duties. So when we merged with Fairbank United, it was easy for us to pass on Muslim kids to Fairbank United. And much that they had all the coaching staff and the volunteers and everybody, and so they brought, they brought these kids. Mashallah, now they're role models of today. And I'll give you an example of one of our ustads who's a teacher in our madrasa with Hafiz of Quran, who also, mashallah, is a teacher at a school. And he came through the ranks, and I'm sure he was one of the early ones from the under sevens or eights, and then he's progressing in the adults at the moment.
He was
So,
captain as well.
these
So
are examples.
still plays.
Uh,
He was
yeah, Hafiz
captain of
plays
the
on.
Open. Yeah, he still plays as well. He still plays for the Open Nation.
Yeah. And so I'm just saying, it's people like them that, so mashallah, Fairbank United played a part, Muslim played a part in his progression. Mashallah, other people have as well. But at least, hopefully now he's stayed away from the bads in society, the ills in society, and he's a role model for others now, especially when he teaches his class. The skills that he's learned are from Fairbank United, are from the ustads, are from the teachers, the mentors that have taught him. And mashallah, today he's one of our good teachers, one of our best teachers. And the kids can look up to him, or mashallah, my ustad, he's a football player and he plays for a team. You understand? So at least now the kids, they also have a role model to look up to. He's a school teacher, same time he's a football player, and same time he's my ustadji as well. It's a big thing for the kids. And
The other thing as well
so
with that, Milan Saab, is, and that's a good example, but how many masjids are there in Bradford? And the thing that gets me is only one or two doing this outreach work. And we've got to go beyond that hall in the masjid where we're just doing the five salats. It's got to be more than that. And we've got to have links in with, I mean, for example, over the years we've done loads of things beyond football, but we've had to tail, as the club's grown slightly, we've tapered them back. So we helped get funding for a table tennis club many years ago. We got help get funding for a drama club. We've linked in recently. I mean, we're currently working with and I know yourselves are working with the Bradford Literacy Network. So we're getting out books to a lot of our players, and that's a project that we're doing right now. In the past, we've run homework clubs, and we've sort of helped and supported those. So in
recently you did something for the girls,
Oh
that
yeah,
our Muslim
I
girls.
mean the other thing now growing is, and one of my big concerns is, okay, the lads, they go out, they play football, and the things have changed over the years. Because remember when we were younger, we just go out and we play out in the roads, and well, for whatever reason now that people don't tend, or kids don't tend to do that. So we've got us then, we cater for that. But in terms of the girls, it's especially our sort of community. If you look at the women sort of our age, the diabetes is kicking in. They've got all sorts of health problems because they're not physically active and they've never had sort of the opportunity to go there. So, I mean, where are our netball teams? We've got no one running those. We ran a project recently and we got loads of girls, and again, we tied in with Mr. Umar and a couple of other mustards. And we got a load of girls down just kicking about, and now they've gone on and they're playing for. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to run a girls team, but there's another Manu Park Phoenix FC has got a girls team, so we sent them all up there. And because there isn't as many girls playing, we thought if we start competing with local clubs for the girls team, it's not going to get anywhere. So we've combined there, and we've done that. So we are still doing sort of bits and bobs, but our main concern now is basing it around football. But if the masjids don't do this community work, who's going to do it? If the masjids don't look after our kids outside of the madrasa time and salah time, then obviously you've got the devil out there, and you've got the things like all these. We know what plagues our inner cities, and that's where my concern is that people like the Council of Mosques should be providing funding for this. With such a big
Yeah.
organisation than an umbrella group, why are they not sponsoring teams? Why are not other masjids doing the same thing? And it's good that
But
we've got.
I think it comes down to structure. It comes down to volunteering. It comes down to funding. All these things play a part. And like yourself, you could do something feasible for a certain amount of time, but then if you consistently want to run something, you need that funding part. You
Well,
need
that's
people.
like
You
the
need a
model that
structure behind you.
the model that Musty Umar is run, where they've sort of provided support to another organisation. I'm not saying that each masjid has set up their own football team, but every one of them's got a local football club, or
Right.
everyone will have someone within the congregation who will be able to do that. And that's something. The only way that ourselves across Bradford, and we're doing our little bit here, and we're doing what we can. But there's many people like me in Shaz across the city who are volunteering and sort of working within football who just need that financial support. So I think it's important that whereas Mr. Umar is sort of leading the way, that other people use the model and sort of hopefully, if the people from other masjids who are watching this, I hope they take that on board and ask what are masjids doing outside of their sort of statutory duty that I'd call it. And that's the only way we as a community are going to progress and sort of improve and help our kids.
And I think it's only about linking with these teams and passing the kids on.
Yeah.
You need to take the responsibility. It's just
Also, exactly that, or maybe a little bit of financial support. Maybe buy them
yeah.
some football, buy them a kit. Little things like that help. You don't understand the finances in are so precarious these days that it just takes a little thing like after this COVID-19, it'll be interesting to see how many clubs have gone bust. People at professional level, all these professional clubs are really struggling with at community level and grassroots level. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when we're all up and running again.
So I want to ask a question around. So you've been running for such a long time, 25 years, like you mentioned there. So and actually you mentioned some of the stuff that's changed around. We used to go out and we used to just play on the streets, and we didn't mind. We played anywhere. All we wanted to do was play football. Whereas now you go out on the street and see pockets of people here, pockets of people there. You don't really see the same level of community sort of engagement. So how have you guys seen that reflected in football club over the 25 years?
It's a different world, isn't it? I mean, back then we could go out, we'd play, and if we messed about, there'd be an uncle there who'd be clipping you around the ear and sending you home and saying, "Oh, you'd live in fear of your dad finding out, so you won't be messing about." Um, and there were, back streets we were playing in. I remember the back street, Kensington Street, or there was a patch of land, wherever there was, we'd be playing football. But I think maybe the media it stroked it up. People are scared to let their kids out. The growth of PlayStation. So why are people going to go out play in the rain like we used to do, or sort of play in the cold when they can sit at home, and now they're on their mates and they're all playing FIFA. Um, these sort of things are not TV. I mean, how many channels did we have when we were growing up? 4, 5. Now 24/7 cartoons used to come on at 4 o'clock, or if you on the weekend you had to wake up at 6 in the morning. And people are thinking, "Oh bloody hell, he's a dinosaur," and these things are happening. But that's how it was back then. So our entertainment was we'd go out, we'd play football because there was nothing on, nothing else to do. Because there's all these competing elements now, it is more difficult for the kids to get together. And now there's more cards, more traffic. People are worried about their um, cars getting damaged by a football. These sort of things, that are
Lack
issues.
of green space.
Yeah, like a green
That's
spaces. I mean,
that's a massive thing, if I'm honest. Yeah,
Wetley used to be open and accessible to all. The pitch that we train on, we used to get in through the railings. All that's sealed off now. I mean, we're lucky we've got a key and we let the kids in, but that was a local space that's been sealed off and isn't used anymore. Where the health centre used to be, there used to be a patch of land we used to kick about and play five-a-side. That's gone. So yeah, there is that. West Park is still West Park, I suppose, and kids are still kicking about and playing there, and you see that. But the playgrounds have gone as well. You can't get into the old playground that Shaz used to play in. The one up at St Philip's that people used to play on. There's a big health centre on there. So these spaces are contracting, and on top of that, kids have got other things to keep themselves occupied. So it is a challenge, but once the kids, you give them that little bug. I mean, FIFA's FIFA, and people enjoy playing it virtually, but then it doesn't beat going out and kicking a ball about and having a laugh with your
I think it comes
mates.
down to interest as well. I think a lot of young people have lost interest because it's so easy to sit at home and you could go online and play with your friends and you're still communicating and you're within your own group. And then it comes down to role models. The role models and what they want to achieve in life and as they go, further into the life and as they grow older. I think the mentality changes, and the role model, how they want to be, and you know, where they want to go in life, totally changes from what I've seen to now. It's a massive change, and I think the biggest thing is interest. We're losing interest in people being physically fit rather than sitting at home online, talking to their friends, playing games, and it's
I
easy.
mean,
It's easier.
the prevalence of all these cheap takeaways doesn't help as well, does it? I mean, you've got no one needs to cook at home anymore. You click your fingers and you can go here and get a doner from here, and you can get a burger from there, and it costs virtually nothing. And, what are we? I think Bradford is the most obese city per capita in the whole country. Um,
Wow.
Literally, instead of corner shops, we have takeaways these days. So I can understand where that's coming from. So
So it's lifestyle choices, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's a lifestyle choice now. It's easier to sit at home and chill with your mates over a microphone and an internet connection than it is to set up a game and try to get. I mean, every weekend we didn't have a club when we were growing up, and I know Shaz might remember this. We used to have these games where lads from my area would get together, 10 of us, and we'd go over and we'd play the lads on Fairbank Road, or we'd go over and play the lads on West Park. In fact, for every weekend between the ages of I think 12 and 15, 16, our lads from this end, sort of Kensington Street end and Fairbank Road, and used to play the lads from West Park every week in, home game, away game. Would be 1 week at Wetley, one week at West Park. Doesn't happen anymore because it's difficult to get hold of that amount of kids, that amount of lads together to coordinate that. And this was the time before internet and mobile phones. We used to do this, sort of in Vanessa,
Akif,
we organising it all.
just about other 16, 17 years ago here at Masjid, when initially what we used to do on the Wetley field, we used to tell the parents that we're gonna have a football game. So Saturday about 3 o'clock, and shall I tell you, no word they were like, we had about 80 to 100 boys to turn up, and they were,
It's a matter of someone taking the lead and organising that, isn't it?
no, but it's changed so much. Just a few months ago, one of your lads from Fairbank United, he arranged a football tournament at Manningham Sports Centre for madrasas, and just to get two six-a-side teams, it was so difficult. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that I couldn't get 12 players, and why? Because nobody was interested in playing football, and the ones that I took was they weren't even footballers. They were just
Yeah.
I forced them to go.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And I was just shocked at how. And I think, like you said, because lack of green spaces, lack of these things, people don't just get football and just play about. You don't see that now, unless somebody's organized like yourselves or something, and it's an organized place and somebody's taking responsibility. I don't think people they prefer to just stay at home and do nothing.
Which is a
So you
shame.
mentioned sorry, Mona Saab, so
No,
you
no.
mentioned something really important, Shaz. You mentioned like role models. So the role models for the area that you guys are in, football, would be the pinnacle, right? It's the Premier League. And one thing you don't really see in the Premier League is the South Asian people players in the Premier League. And I'm sure you guys have come across, and you can state for yourself, some players who might have been worthy. So what do you think about the representation of the South Asian people in the Premier League, or the lack of?
I think it's a massive issue. It's been going on for a long time, and obviously over the years we've some very very talented footballers have come through the football club. There's no doubt about that. I think the biggest thing is, and when you speak to coaches and you interact with other clubs, and especially on the professional level, it comes down to attitude and mentality. For be honest, and I remember one, you know, uh, coach saying to me that um, it's when you get to that age of scholarship and etc. And all these professional footballers somewhere down the line have washed someone's boots and etc. And there was one guy, very talented football wise, didn't want to wash boots. There was another scenario where there was no support from the parents. There's one generally in the individual who I know personally, he was very talented, but he just did not have no family support. Parents, father was working, mom's at home. It comes down to a lot of things. If I'll be honest, you can't pick on one certain thing, but if if you put them all together, when you look at it, and now, especially in this day and age, you think this could have worked out, but it was maybe guiding someone in that direction. Maybe uneducation. Why? Because they may be within us as agents. We want our sons to be doctors and solicitors and etc. And we don't see that way of life of they've got talent. And coming back to what Molana Sahib was saying, I think Akib mentioned it as well. It's about what you see from your child, what you don't see at home. And as we work in schools, and I said this to parents as well, that we interact with your child more than you do during their primary age, for example, or secondary age. And what we see, you might never see. And this is why it's very vital that parents always support their children in whatever they're going to do. Whether they succeed or not, yeah, there's no regrets at the end of it. And maybe through goodness, they will achieve, and then the benefits will be as they grow older.
I mean,
I don't know if Akif wants to touch
yeah,
on that.
no, Shaz is bang right in terms of there's multiple factors. I mean, if you think about it, to become an elite level athlete, which these Premier League players are, it's a minute chance that you're going to get there. You've got to be in the right place at the right time, in front of the right scout. The other factors that don't help us, first of all, is the fact that we start a little bit later. How many of our lads do you know start at 5, 6 at football clubs? I mean, we don't even have a kids team at 5 and 6. It's like all things. If you know, if you've got someone who's going to become a genius, and essentially these football professionals are football geniuses, aren't they? They've got that athleticism, they've got that skill. You've got to start that talent spotting nice and early. Diet is another one. We all know about the South Asian diet. How does that support us? Going to these protests that happened over the last week or so, the Black Lives Matters. I mean, we're part of that Black Lives Matters sort of movement. Racism, unfortunately, and it might not be sort of an explicit racism. It might be sort of a subconscious thing that I know John Barnes talks about a lot about. But you know, how's a scout who's not familiar with our community, you know, going to think automatically they've got these prejudices and sort of they prejudge us a little bit. Where okay, you know, in terms of cricket, oh yeah, they're all cricketers, they all like cricket. Not every Asian likes cricket. I absolutely hate cricket. I can't stand the damn sport. So it's things like that that you're always battling against. Um, and then you've got to be scouted. How many young Asian teams have we got that are playing in the top leagues of the kids level, because that's where they're scouted at. This is another issue that we have got, is sort of that diversity in terms of, look at all our teams, they're all predominantly Asian. Not every single one of those are brilliant players. We might have one or two brilliant players. The rest are going to be average or below average. Now, what league are we going to be playing in? We're not going to be playing in that top league of our junior league. We're going to be playing at Division 3 or a Division 4, a C or a D league. How many scouts are going to come to a C D league game to pick a player? They're going to go to the A league. Now, a combination of all these things, and then you've got to have the commitment, you've got to have the parental sort of support and guidance, and you put all these factors together, and you're gonna get 1 out of 10,000, 1 out of 20,000, 1 out of 100,000. Do we have that many Asian lads playing the game as well? So you're looking for that needle in the haystack, and it's difficult to start with. We've gotten sort of the preconceived ideas against us, and then on top of that, we've got all these other issues. I'm hoping in the next decade or so something happens. The other issue we've got is in the West Midlands. You've got some of these lads coming through. Hamza Chowdhury is of Bangladeshi origin, and he's come through, and he's the first team at Leicester City. Zesh Raymond was, sort of the big breakthrough, but he was like a bit like Benjamin Button. He started at the top and he worked his way down the leagues, and now I don't know where he ended up playing in Malaysia or somewhere. But
Because I don't think we saw football as a career. We always saw it
That's
as
the
a
big
as a,
thing, and that's
as
another
a
factor as well, Milan Sab. If you tell an Asian parent, even me, someone who's sort of been playing football since the age of 5, and if my lad had the ability, I mean, he had the heart, unfortunately, he didn't have the ability there. But, if we had a choice, do we take that risk, that 1 in 10,000, 1 in 100,000, risk that he's going to make it to the top, or do we take that risk that he's going to be a solicitor or a doctor or something
But
that
Akif, nowadays there's other doors. If you can't become a footballer, like you said, it's one in a tens of thousands chance
mm,
that is. So you can, and we've seen it like there's Muslim doctors or there's training fitness coaches, there's referees,
which a lot of our
there's
lads, I mean, a lot of the lads that we're talking about early doing the degrees, I know two, three of them are doing sports science degrees and looking at PE. I know one of our open age team has just graduated as a PE teacher. So there are those careers available to them, which they're taking up. But you can,
and a second year, sorry to cut you off. I think now the ownerships of these Premier League clubs into Muslim hands with some of them, it's gonna open my like when you attend the matches. I think some of them have made mosques, a little prayer area. They've had the facilities. Now, when you even go to some football matches, you see women in hijab there. So, where before it was always seen as a thuggish,
yeah. I
racist.
mean, football has changed. You are right. Football has changed a hell of a lot at the professional level than since the dark days of the 80s and 90s, where you had the racists blatantly there. They've done a lot of work in terms of improving that. And you are right with the Muslim owners coming in, but I don't think that's going to necessarily allow Muslims and Southeast Asians to come through. I think that's going to be business decisions. If someone's the best, they're going to pick them,
But
which
I think what I was
might
trying to say
hinder
is
us in
that
some way because it's easy to pick a player who's
yeah,
doing well already abroad. I mean, the other argument you've got as well, and it's an interesting one, in places like France and Germany and uh, Spain, you've got these second generation immigrants coming through. Look at Zidane. Look at half the French team. You look at Ozil. They're of
Pogbas.
yeah, they've all come through and they're second generation immigrants. Hasn't really happened for us here. And like I said, there's those factors there, but there must be something else hindering us.
Now, if you look at it, when Salah does his sajda or Mane, I heard that his dad's an imam back in his home country, and he helps a lot in Liverpool. And so, I think last year there's a video of the Mane cleaning the toilets in the masjid, and so but he inspires the next generation of our Muslim youth. Wow, you know what? You could be a Muslim and you could be a footballer, and now from the terraces they sing Muslim songs.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Uh,
mean,
and
when we were growing up, I remember that there was no Muslims, no Asians, and I think the first time I discovered someone who looked similar to me playing football was the '94 World Cup, and I don't know if any of you Babar were, but I think the others might remember England didn't get to that World Cup, so I had to pick a team. So my team for that World Cup was Saudi Arabia, and I remember a chap called Alawiran, I think his name was, and he went through and sort of from the halfway line and took on about 5, 6 players like Maradona did and putting one in. And you were thinking, oh wow, Asians can play football. So that was an eye opener back then. But now, yeah, mashallah, we've got a lot more role models. Might not be from our community, and inshallah, maybe in the next decade that'll happen. We can keep praying for that. But we have got a lot more familiar people who look like us who are sort of playing, which is people like Salah,
and I
amazing
think
for the sport.
like the non-Muslims that are footballers or whatever or work in the clubs. I think they're realizing, wait a minute, there's a big Asian community. There's 2, 3 million of them. There must be some talent out there, and I think they're making those provisions for at their clubs for Muslims to be accommodated. Sometimes, like we might have the issue of sharing the showers or something. That could be an issue. So I think the clubs are becoming accommodating towards Muslim and realize, wait a minute, they have needs. And I think even in Europe, like you said, I think there are quite a few clubs that have, like I said, the masjid, they've
Yeah,
got some prayer facilities,
I
they
mean,
make sure there's no alcohol,
that
for those players
that
and
sort of
whatever.
thing is coming through at the top level,
Yeah.
and hopefully, like I said, it is all a matter of luck. And I'm hoping, I hope I live to see an Asian from Pakistani background represent England one day. I mean, me and Shaz went to the National Centre at St George's Park, and all the things that you're talking about in terms of separate showers, the provision, prayer provisions, all of those are in place already. So it's just a matter of hopefully someone getting in there and taking advantage of it one day.
So you guys have been on Firebank United for such a long time. I got to ask you, what's the highlight? What's one of your favorite moments of being managers at Fairbank United?
Oh Lord. Okay, how many? From a personal point of view, I've got a few. The first one, I remember coaching a team. Obviously, my son was playing for it, and cross comes in, he controls it, and he backheeled it into the corner, and it was first game, and you had that lump in your throat. And then this is the importance of parents sort of coming a watch, and you just sort of like, normally you're shouting and screaming instructions. I just had to stay silent, and even now I'm thinking about it, and it's like sort of fairly emotional. The other one was. This year we go on a pre-season tour and we played a team, a semi-professional team, and it was in the baking heat, and he came on and played in the same game. So father and son in the same team. So that's from a personal level. That there were a couple of highlights. In terms of management, wasn't the team I managed actually. It was one of the other lads. I'd managed this team, and they're currently out under 14s. I'd managed them when they were younger, 11, 12. And they got to the last game of the season, which they needed to win, and it turned into an Aguero moment. They were 3-1 down, and their striker went through. This striker had scored 25, I think 30 goals all season. 3-1 down, 10 minutes left, and my nephew pulls off a double save. He's still thinking, okay, brilliant save, it's over. But that triggered a comeback, and last kick of the game, we won 4-3, and we won the league. And that was, I think we've got a clip of it somewhere.
No.
Well done, what a goal! Aguero! I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again!
Which you could show.
Akif, you can take all the credit for that.
No, I'm not, because the two coaches there did a brilliant job. And I think
A master stroke, so last minute.
No. I just watched it, and it's just a memorable moment, because me and Shaz, if we don't coach a team, we'll go watch one of the other ones, and that was sort of something else. That was one of those where you thought, wow. And they're, mashallah, they've got a lot of decent talent there. There's all sorts of little bits and bobs, random things you
memories
think of.
I remember is, like you're talking earlier on, the teacher you've got at the madrasa as well in Faizan. He was the captain actually. Akif's going to take the credit here, and it was similar. It was the last game of the season. We had to win, and there was a team in Burley who had to lose, and it was chucking it down. And so I left Akif with Faizan and these guys. And I drove all the way to Burley and back just to see Burley lose. And Akif doesn't let me forget this, that I was the manager that day. But yeah, it's teamwork, it's as long as we achieve something. And that was achievement, if I'll be honest with you, in the rain, chucking it down, knowing Abbas. I'm sure you'll know Abbas, who drank all the lemonade as well. But it was that was a good achievement, if I'll be honest. In the last day, we didn't think Burley would lose, if I'll be honest. They were a really good side as well, and they lost on the day, and then we beat Salts that day and took the title.
And I think as well, another highlight was the first title that we won as an open age team. And I know Shaz had that group of lads, and they'd had some near misses when they were they were in the juniors. And I think the previous season we got to a semi-final and sort of came really close to winning the league that year. And that was a sort of another highlight in terms of a pretty good one. And then I think there was one of the. I remember watching it. It was a semi-final, and what had happened? Well, those of you that know the club, we had a split. So we won the league, and sort of a lot of the team went and played elsewhere. And I remember we got to a semi-final, and we absolutely trounced this team 5-0. It was BD3, and they'd beaten us in semi-finals continuously. So we nearly got there, nearly got to finals, and they beat us. And I remember sort of we were about 3-4-0 up at the time. And Shaz, as always, is just concentrating the game. And I just looked around, and all these lads that had come through the system, all the lads that had helped us, and we'd rebuilt. and I just stood there and I just sort of enjoyed that last 10 minutes where we were just sort of cruising and winning, and sort of the hard work that where we'd got up to the top, crashed down, and suddenly we were on the rise again. That was another one which we've done. So there's sort of so many we could talk about. Local derbies that we've won, local derbies where tackles have gone in. I remember one where we were losing 2-0 and I put a tackle in and sort of changed the game, and then I ended up pulling my hamstring and conceding it out. The amount of times I pulled the hamstring playing over the years, people scoring last minute winners, it's been there. Losing to the last minute winner. I think there've been times where, if Shazza remember one, we had a cup final where we had the lemonade. We were ready to celebrate to start skirting around, and they scored in the last minute, and then they beat us, and we were sort of on the floor with it. So they've been the highest of highs, they've been the lowest of lows, and everything in between. We've been there, and it's been a roller coaster ride. If anyone comes and watches Fairbank and follows us over the season, it's always entertainment.
So if someone wants to get involved with Fairbank, I know you mentioned earlier about volunteering, and if someone wants to volunteer, they can get in touch with you or all these different mediums. What if someone wants to play? How do they get? Or someone wants a child to play? How do they get in touch? How do they go about enrolling?
Exactly the same way. We're on Facebook, so you send us a message and we'll get back in touch with you. We normally answer within the hour there. We're on Twitter, we're on Snapchat, we're on Instagram. I mean, I know we're not on the old My5 and Bebo and all that sort of stuff. We left that behind a long time ago. But all these four we're on. So by all means, get in touch. And we have inquiries all the time. We have training sessions on. If sometimes it's not about getting in the team. We've got a lad who's autistic and has severe sort of learning difficulties, and his parents bring him just for that social interaction and playing, in terms of training. So it might be the kids aren't good enough, but they'll train. By all means, they're always welcome. And where we can, we'll try to give them a game. But for example, if we've got a team that's going for a title, sometimes it becomes difficult. So we do try to be inclusive at the lower age, in under 11s and sort of where it's non-competitive. We'll give everyone a game. But the older it goes, the more competitive it gets. So sometimes you have to make do with training. But there is something for everyone. We have had in the past year just drop-in sessions where kids come and just play football. And we've done that indoor up at Speedball and at Manningham Sports Centre, and I'm hoping to do a few more of those next year as well. We linked in with Great Orton Church to cricket club to do that, and those sessions were successful. So there's always something, always something in some way. And if we can't host you, if you're too old or too young and we don't support you, we'll pass you on to another local football club, and by all means you can go there. There's a few football clubs that we work with that if they can't accommodate, they send to us, and vice versa.
Especially with the volunteering, Baba, where you're asking, it's to be honest with you, doing it for so long, it's an achievement on its own, if I'll be honest. And I'd recommend and always say that if you want to volunteer, do come across and get in touch, and we'll obviously always look after you, education wise.
That is an important thing that Shaz says as well. We don't ever chuck anyone in the deep end and say, right, there you go, you're going to run a team now. We've done that in the past, and we've learned from those mistakes. And the people we've chucked in the past, we've lucky, it's a sink or swim situation, and they've swum, they've managed to deal with it. Now what we tend to do is each one of our teams, a new volunteer will be buddied up with someone much more experienced. So it might be that I run a team and someone will come in with me, or Shaz will run a team and I'll come with him, or we've now got experienced volunteers now that sort of work together. And as you learn and as you realize sort of the hours involved, it might be that you turn up for a couple of weeks and say, oh my God, we can't do this. Well, it's easy for you to drop out then if there's someone already there. Whereas if you drop out and you've got 15, 20 kids that rely on you, it's not fair on you, it's not fair on them. So we do have a system in place, and like Shaz says, if you do stick with us, we do reward you by getting you on and allowing you to get your coaching badges. And it is rewarding. It is rewarding. I mean, I know I've run teams with, my nephews and my son in there, but I've run teams that, I'm not related to anyone with there, and just seeing that progression and seeing the development of the team and the development of characters within the team, and being able to have that laugh with them, and have that joke with them, and seeing them enjoying it. It is a very rewarding thing, to take part in, and I'd recommend it. I'd recommend it. But you do need to put in the hours. So say bye bye to your weekends if you are looking to get involved fully.
Yeah, they just need to get in touch. They need to get in touch with us. We'll guide them. We'll support them, and hopefully, somewhere down the line they'll be able to run their own team on their own, not on their own individually, but become managers rather than coaches.
Yeah, and then we'll give them someone, and hopefully they'll take through another volunteer. And that's sort of where the model we're using to grow the club.
Excellent. Molana Sahib, we're at the hour mark. So is there any final parting remarks?
No, mashallah, give credit to these guys and all the volunteers and everybody behind Fairbank United. May Allah Ta'ala give you the strength to carry on. I remember we kicked off after Ramadan with the podcast Consequences of Crime. And one of the whole purpose is to keep our kids engaged. And I think that's the concern of every parent, that how can my child stay off the streets, stay off the bad. And these are the ways that we're trying to open the doors that don't get your kids involved with Fairbank United, or local teams, whatever interest they might not be into football, they might be into something else. Some kids are into swimming or something, so they should have a hobby and interest, so that at least mentally they're right, physically they're right as well. And it's very important to occupy time. If we don't occupy time, like we know Shaitan, then will entertain us, and he's our biggest enemy. And it's how we can remember this. There's time for ibadah, there's time for your worship, there's time to go to the masjid. But the other times that you have, it's very important we engage our youth, our kids, into something that they like, some hobby, some interest. So whether it be football, whatever hobbies they have, it's very important we engage their time into doing some good actions. And that's the main thing. And I think that's why these podcasts are here. For even in the next few, we've got some interesting guests coming up. So, and the whole purpose is of our Girlington is to make sure our kids achieve, they become good role models for tomorrow's children, inshallah. And so, I first of all, Jazakallah for Fairbank United coming on to the podcast, and I hope you guys
Just
go.
to add to that, Milan Sahib, I think the new masjid, when it's complete, will help us achieve that aim, especially within Girlington, because we're going to have that capacity to run those extra sessions, or to host. For example, it might be a boxing club, or jiu-jitsu club, or things that are obviously Sharia compliant. And I think when that masjid is complete, I think the outlook of and I'm coming from a committee member point of view now. The outlook is that it can't just be somewhere that it's there for salah. That's our primary purpose, and the madrasa obviously will be catered. But we've got to use, and we've got to get, especially our youth, into that masjid doing things, whether it be arts and crafts if people are into, whether it be sort of some sort of martial art, or whether it be sort of tailoring it out to us and sort of allowing the football side of it to take over, or whatever other things. I mean, there's plans for exercise classes, gyms, and all sorts of things. So inshallah, let's hope that we can get this project over and done with as quick as we can, and the community can benefit from it.
That's a beautiful segue into what's rolling across the bottom of the screen is where's the raise funds for the new masjid that we were just talking about. So if you can do bank transfers, the bank sort code and account numbers there. There's a GoFundMe page. So go on to there and donate if you want to donate on the GoFundMe page. Or if you want to do hard cash, the good old way, there's a phone number on there for Faisal Fakar, and he will make arrangements with you to take that payment off you. Shaz, any parting words from you?
Just thank you very much for inviting us to the podcast. It's been really good. I'm sure people will enjoy listening to a bit of me, but a lot of Akif. But as we go along, and I'd just like to say, if I could take the opportunity, Mulana Sahib, Jazakallah khair, Baba, thanks for your time. Thanks to the Masjid and in helping and supporting us. And we've got to work overall, we've got to work both ways. And any support you guys need from us, we'll always be there. And before we go, I could just like to say thank you very much to all the volunteers, all the people
who support us in the community, and we greatly appreciate it.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
الله أكبر الله